Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am not here with Geeky Sparkles. She's never watched this show, so I don't think she'd really care to sit in on this video. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Midnight Gospel being canceled at Netflix. And for those of you who don't know, it actually was an animated series, was past tense, by Pendleton Ward and Duncan Trussell. I think it's Duncan Trussell. Pendleton Ward, of course, is the creator of Adventure Time. So when the show premiered, it premiered to quite a bit of fanfare, as I recall. And I don't think it took off, nearly as much as Adventure Time. Is very, very different. It was a very trippy show. Reminded me of some experimental avant-garde animation from like the 60s and 70s. I actually liked it. I mean, it was weird as hell, but I liked it for what it was. That being said, I don't think it had a lot of mass appeal, but it was critically lauded, if I recall, and it also got canceled. So we're going to use the opportunity to talk more about the animation cancellations at Netflix. And if Pendleton Ward can't keep his series on the air at Netflix, there's not a lot of hope for other people unless you're doing like DreamWorks stuff, Boss Baby stuff, or whatever. And I have to wonder, where this is going to end, because Netflix, remember just a couple of years ago, they made a big deal about animation. They were going all in on animation, that the future was animated, and animation productions could continue throughout the pandemic because, people didn't have to be there in person. They could work from home or remotely or whatever. They could job some of this stuff out to overseas animation studios and massively underpay them. But that's a whole nother video. We'll talk about that at a later date. But that is a thing that apparently happens. And that's just a very brutal truth about the animation industry. Most of the work is actually done by people overseas who don't get paid enough. But anyway, we're going to talk about the Midnight Gospel getting canceled and the Netflix animation apocalypse continuing. And I have to wonder, again, when it's going to stop, if it's going to stop, or if Netflix has just decided they're done with animation, unless it's a bankable IP. And we're seeing this over at HBO Max, too, that they're canceling stuff. Rumors of Adult Swim. I think I read a rumor on Twitter that Adult Swim was going to go to streaming and it wasn't going to be on TV anymore. That was a rumor. I don't know. I don't have any inside information. We did have Warner insiders at one point. We do not now. I think they got gone from the company. But everything is upside down in the animation industry right now. And there is still some good stuff being produced, but I think we're going to get a lot less experimental stuff, and it's going to be more reboots and sequels and funny animal movies. And although The Bad Guys I heard was pretty good. Anyway, let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 269,000 subs. Thank you so much for the support. We do talk about the animation industry. Having some friends in the animation industry currently. We've actually pitched and had optioned a couple of series by Disney back in the day, and they never moved forward with them because they're very expensive. And animation has always been kind of, a luxury item, I think, with a lot of TV networks, even Cartoon Network. They don't seem to produce a lot of original content anymore. They just keep rerunning Teen Titans Go. But animation is very expensive. And I remember a few years ago, it was Frederator was doing a crowdfunder for Bee and Puppy Cat. I think it was Bee and Puppy Cat. Yeah, it was Bee and Puppy Cat. And, I think they got like $700,000 or $800,000. And people on animation forums were complaining because it was for like one pilot, I think is what they were crowdfunding. And Fred actually had to go in and school them because they're like, $700,000, $800,000 for a pilot. Are you smoking crack? It doesn't cost that much. And he's like, no. Actually, it does, because we're creating a new thing. This is the first episode. We got to create all the, the models and the backgrounds and put the team together. And yeah, this is what it costs, and it's going to be professional. This is what it costs. And people are floored at how expensive animation is. And they get very salty when series get canceled. And a lot of times animation, it's a very easy decision. You're talking $500,000 to $1 million an episode, or you could just throw some reality TV on. and probably get more viewers, because animation is a very niche thing. Especially if it's not kids stuff, if it's not SpongeBob or Teen Titans Go, if it's something like the Midnight Gospel, it's going to be a very niche thing. It might be a wonderful thing, but it's going to have a very limited audience. So this is coming from Animation Magazine. The Midnight Gospel will not return for season 2 on Netflix. Pendleton Ward and Duncan Trussell's hand-colored interdimensional existentialist trip has come to an end. It's a very trippy show. Netflix has canceled adult animated series The Midnight Gospel despite largely positive critical and audience responses. I would agree. I think it's actually a good show. It's weird. It's probably better if you've been drinking. The news was shared on Twitter by Trussell, a comedian, writer, and actor who teamed up with Adventure Time's maverick Pendleton Ward to create the series. Now, Ward left halfway through Adventure Time, and there definitely was a tonal shift. The first couple seasons of Adventure Time, I freaking loved it. Me and Squid King used to watch it all the time, and it was like kind of an off-the-rails D&D type adventure, and then it turned into like existential dread, and that was after Ward left, I think. So a fan asked, are there plans for more episodes of it? I'd love to see more. He answered the Midnight Gospel was canceled by Netflix. He added in the thread, in my mind, there's one more season, but the sentient glass deciding cube they keep in their catacombs vibrated no more. It's hard to argue with a cube. P.S. I'm so lucky the folks at Netflix rolled the dice and let us make such a strange show. It is very weird. They were supremely supportive all the way through, and I'll love them forever for it. So no ill will. But they do bring up all the other shows that have been canceled by Netflix just in the last month. Midnight Gospel joins several other quirky, creator-driven Netflix animation projects not returning or being shut down while in development, including Centaur World, Ava DuVernay's Wings of Fire adaptation, Dino Daycare, Meghan Markle's Pearl, and Jaideep Hasrajani's Boons and Curses. The streamer has enacted a flurry of cost-cutting measures, including layoffs across the animation division and the company as a whole, after reporting the loss of 200,000 subscribers in the first quarter and the anticipated loss of 2 million more, fueling Netflix's first major stock price drop in a decade. It was animated by Titmouse. The 8-episode series premiered appropriately on April 20th, 2020, 420. Yes, bringing viewers into the surreal, darkly comic, surprisingly deep sci-fi universe of the Chromatic Ribbon to tag along with Clancy, a spacecaster. Yes, it's basically a podcast, an animated podcast. Yeah, it's weird. So Trussell was Clancy. They had a lot of other voice actors on here. I'm not going to go through them all. Diverse guest star list include Pauly Shore. Yeah, he was on it. We've got some YouTubers on there, and his mother, I believe, was in the last episode, which is kind of tragic. But yeah, it was actually a pretty good show. I actually agree with Giant Freaking Robot said it was one of the greatest series on Netflix. It was good. I don't know if it was one of the greatest series, but it was good. Yeah, so they said that the powers that be making the decisions about what shows to keep or ditch didn't decide in favor of the Midnight Gospel. In the end, Trussell was complimentary of Netflix and the supportive streamer and the supportive executives, and it had a high critical score, and that doesn't really matter to Netflix. So here's how Netflix decides what to keep and what to ditch. Money and return on investment. And yeah, this is why Cowboy Bebop got canceled as quickly as it did, despite the first couple episodes, I guess, getting all kinds of views. They look at like, okay, we're spending X number of dollars on this show. Are we going to get X number of eyeballs? And is this show going to drive subscriptions to the service? Midnight Gospel is weird as hell. It probably had a very limited audience. It definitely didn't overlap with the Adventure Time crowd very much. It wasn't for kids. And so they probably just looked at it and was like, yeah, it's not, I mean, it's cool. It's neat that it exists, but it's not bringing in the money. And in a lot of cases, I mean, look, I'm kind of a hard ass when it comes to capitalism sometimes, because I think money makes the world go round, but money also makes it possible. A surplus of money makes it possible to do really cool things that would not exist otherwise. And, when it comes to certain shows, I mean, some of my favorite shows are very quirky, very expensive. I mean, hell, I'm still salty about Dark Crystal getting canceled. And it was a very expensive show. I mean, Probably not as much as, some of the animated series, but Bone. I mean, Bone got canceled. Roald Dahl, there's stuff canceled. Something about this cloud. I don't know. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff getting canceled at Netflix. I think it's going to continue. We've got people in animation Twitter. They don't like us very much in animation Twitter, but that's okay. That's okay. I don't hate you unless you hate on us first. But people in animation Twitter talking about all the weird layoffs and cutbacks, and it's going to continue, for sure. And it's just a very easy cut. It's, these shows are expensive, and it doesn't matter how much you get trending on Twitter. The executives are going to make that decision. So I guess my thought on this is, where does this leave animation? And I think it leaves animation with independent animators, because I think a lot of the studios are going to trim animation other than like major releases that they know are going to make a ton of money. Disney is going to keep doing Pixar movies and sequels and, big budget movies, but you're not going to see a lot of shorts or art house movies or anything like that from any of the studios. It's not going to happen. But then look at what happened with Hell of a Boss and how Vivzie Pop was able to get her stuff picked up by, I think it was A24 picked it up, and Has Been Hotel. Yeah, so, I mean, that probably is more what the future is going to look like. So I think what you're going to have to do, this is my old man advice. I'm not that old, but my old man advice is, you're going to have to prove yourself on another social media platform, or you're going to have to prove yourself with numbers somewhere, whether it's comic book sales or something. And, probably bankroll a pilot or something yourself. And then these studios might be more willing to take a chance on you, because they're not going to, the days of throwing millions of dollars at noobs off of Tumblr, those days are over. It's over. It's not going to happen anymore. Again, Pendleton Ward's getting his stuff canceled. Meghan Markle's getting her stuff canceled. Yeah, you're going to have to bring it. You're going to have to prove that you've got the numbers, you have the audience, and it would help if your series is something that can be merchandised, because merchandise, I know a lot of people are like, hey, we hate those toy cartoons, but merchandise keeps shows on the air. Why do you think there's so many little kid cartoons on Nickelodeon? It's not just because they want to make a lot of the same kinds of shows. Why you think HBO, why you think Cartoon Network is pivoting to Bat Wheels? Because they know they're going to sell toys. That's what it's all about. They're going to sell toys. And the Midnight Gospel was not going to sell toys. They tried selling Adventure Time toys, didn't work very well, I don't think. They tried, because the audience didn't buy toys. They had a lot of young adults watching it. Same with Steven Universe. It didn't toy very well, because it was mostly 20-somethings that were watching Steven Universe. So a lot of things you got to think about. But really, I think if you're working in animation or working in comics, you're going to have to do more yourself before somebody else is going to take a chance on you, because it's just that the Uno reverse card has been played, and they're not just throwing money at people anymore. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.